So we begin our adventure with CPT codes, okay? CPT codes are a description of the services provided. They describe the what services were provided to the patient, okay? Up until now, we've been doing diagnosis was the why. Why was the patient seen? Why were the services provided, okay? So the good news about your CPT book is CPT is published only by one agency, the American Medical Association. ICD-10 codes, diagnosis codes, are maintained by the World Health Organization, and they are used by many countries. So therefore, there are many publishers to your book. So when we were doing diagnosis codes and we were talking about, I couldn't tell you page numbers because my book was published by AAPC, and other students I noticed was published by Optum. Okay, it's the same information, it's published by different companies. We don't have that problem with CPT codes. So when I say page 85, we all should have the same page 85. So that's good news, okay? So CPT's current procedural terminology is maintained by the American Medical Association. It is only used in the U.S., okay? So I want you to get out your CPT book. I want you to turn to the back because in the CPT book, the index is in the back. Okay? So, I want you to just kind of flip through there, kind of just see what kinds of things there are. This is where your anatomy and your medical terminology is really going to come in handy because you got to know what they're doing to the patient. Okay? So, let's just look at a very simple example. Okay? Now remember from your health insurance class, every service has to have a reason. So even though in your homework we are only coding the procedure code, you have to have a diagnosis code as well. Okay? But let's just focus on the procedure code for right now. So let's take this case. Ted comes in, take the OR for an appendectomy because his appendix was ruptured. He had generalized peritonitis. Okay? So the first thing that you need to know for CPT codes is what doctor are you coding for? Okay? Because when you start coding your anesthesia procedures, in that case you are coding for the anesthesiologist. And we'll talk more about this as we go. Okay? This case, you are coding for the surgeon who did the appendectomy. All right? So we're going to go to the back of the book and we're going to look up appendectomy. All right? So go to the back with me. And I see appendectomy on page 1040. Okay? Now, you'll notice where it says appendectomy is in like blue heading, right? And then under that, there's two things. There's appendix excision and laparoscopy. Okay? So look at the appendix excision. It gives us 3 codes with a comma in between them. Okay? So that means that's kind of your 3 choices. Look right above that in the next column where it says Halo and it says 20661-20664. That means that's a range of codes. It could be anywhere between the 6.1 and the 6.4. Okay? So it just depends on what codes are added over the year. Because remember, the code sets are updated every year. That's why you always need a current year's edition of the code book. Okay? that's best. So when you take your test, you definitely need the current years, okay? But so you could run into some problems of if a code is changed and you're using a 21 book, there might be a code change, and that's why you can't find the answer, okay? All right, so let's go back to our appendectomy. So we see an excision, an appendix excision, where so it says that they appendectomy. So appendectomy means removal of appendix or excising of appendix. Okay, it does not say that it was done through a laparoscope. Okay, so in this case, we need to look at 3 codes. We need to look at 44950, 44955, and 44960. Okay? So you're going to need to go to the surgery section, which is the green section. Okay? And if you'll notice in the green section, the surgery section starts as green, but then it is divided by body section. Okay? So we're going to look under the digestive section, and if you look, let me get to that page. Mine is purple on the side. Okay? It says digestive, and it gives you the code range of 40490 and to 49999. Okay? So I would still recommend that you tab your books because it's just much easier, okay? But the color coding does help you find that. All right, so I am on page 376, and I see appendix, okay? So I see a 44950, which is back on page 1040, was my first option for an excision, okay, or appendectomy. Because if you look, flip back over there to page 1040. You see appendectomy where it says appendix excision and laparoscopic. Sorry, I can't speak. But then right under there you see appendix, and it says abscess or excision, and you get those same codes, except you get the addition of the 44970. Okay, so you can look it up either way, all right? But we need to start at 44950, okay? So flip back over to page 376, okay? So here it's telling us that an appendix, so an excision, appendectomy, all right? Then you'll notice there's a plus in front of the 44955. That is what we call an add-on code. And if you use the 44955, you have to use it in addition to something else, which in this case is the 44950. The one that has the plus in front of it can never be first. Okay? So this is saying the 55 is done at the time of another procedure. Well, that doesn't apply to us because it says that he was rushed by ambulance and the appendectomy was the procedure. Okay? But look at 44960. Okay? So the way that you read 44960 is you read appendectomy because that's the main code up there, and then you see the semicolon. So after that, the correct way to read 44960 is appendectomy, semicolon, for ruptured appendix with abscess or generalized peritonitis. Okay, so everything after the semicolon gets added to the appendectomy description. So in this case, it tells us that his appendix ruptured and he had generalized peritonitis. So in this case, the code for this procedure is a 44960. Okay, so you have to look up you have to know what doctor you're coding for. So in this case, we're coding for the surgeon that did the appendectomy, and you have to know the key term. So the key term in this is the procedure that we did. We removed an appendix. Okay? So this is an intro to CPT. That's kind of how you look things up. And we're going to do a video on every section because when we get to the E&M sections, those are going to be very, very difficult for you. So I will walk you through those. But this is kind of your intro to CPT.